Today I want to talk to you about something that goes deeper than romance, deeper than attraction. I want to talk to you about divine connection. You see, before God ever brings the right person into your life, He begins by healing what's broken within you. Healing is not just about letting go of pain. It's about preparing your heart for love that's rooted in truth, in purpose, and in peace. Because God doesn't just want you to find someone to live with, He wants you to find someone to live. And the truth is, you can't truly receive someone's love until you've allowed God to heal the places where you stopped believing you were worthy of it. Healing is the bridge, it's the process. It's the holy path that leads to the kind of love that doesn't just make you feel complete, but calls you into your divine purpose. Before God introduces you to the person you're meant to walk life with, He begins by doing something sacred within you. He begins the process of healing. Many people think the journey to finding a soulmate starts with searching, with looking outward. But in truth, it begins by looking inward. It starts when we let God into the wounded places of our hearts. Those places we've hidden, those memories we've buried, the disappointments we don't talk about. God sees them all, and He desires to heal them before He brings someone new into our lives. Because love, true love, the kind that is lasting, purposeful, and God-ordained, cannot flourish in a wounded soul. It needs a foundation built on healing, trust, and identity rooted in something greater than emotion. God knows that if He brings the right person into your life at the wrong time, when your heart is still tangled in past pain, you might not recognize that person. Worse, you may reject them or sabotage the connection, not because it isn't real, but because your wounds are still speaking louder than your spirit. Healing is the preparation, it is the pruning process where God begins to strip away everything in us that's not aligned with His best. That includes bitterness, unforgiveness, self-doubt, and fear. He knows that if those things remain, they will distort the way we see others, the way we receive love, and the way we give it. So He takes His time with us, not to delay our blessing, but to prepare us for it. Sometimes we ask God, where is my person? Why haven't they shown up yet? But perhaps the better question is, Lord, what are you trying to heal in me before you bring them? That shift in mindset changes everything. It takes the focus off what we lack and puts it on what God is trying to build within us. Because the truth is, if we're not healed, we will view love as something that fills a void rather than something that multiplies purpose. When we are broken and unhealed, we tend to approach relationships from a place of neediness rather than wholeness. We may expect others to fix us, to validate us, to rescue us from our own emptiness. But no human being can do what only God was meant to do. When we rely on another person to complete us, we place a weight on them that they were never created to carry. That's why so many relationships fall apart. Not because love wasn't present, but because healing. God, in His wisdom, often delays certain blessings to protect us from ourselves. He sees the emotional patterns we haven't addressed. He sees the cycles we repeat, the relationships we attract out of insecurity, and He gently waits. He waits for us to bring our brokenness to Him. He waits for us to stop running and start resting in Him. Because only in the presence of God can the deepest wounds truly be restored. Healing isn't always a dramatic moment. Often, it's a quiet process. It's found in the stillness, in the surrender, in those moments when we finally stop striving and start listening. It's in the tears we cry in prayer, the forgiveness we extend to those who hurt us, the grace we give ourselves when we fall short. Each step we take toward healing is a step closer to the love God has prepared for us. God heals you not just for your sake, but for the sake of the person He's preparing you to love. He wants you to walk into that relationship free, not perfect, but whole. Free from the baggage of the past. Free from comparison, resentment, and shame. Free to love without fear, without manipulation, without pretense. That kind of freedom only comes through healing. You see, healing isn't about forgetting what happened to you. It's about allowing God to use it. It's about trusting that even the most painful chapters of your life were not wasted. God redeems everything. He takes the very thing that tried to break you and transforms it into wisdom, strength, and compassion. And when you finally meet that person who is walking their own healing journey, your connection will be more than emotional. It will be spiritual. You'll both be standing in a place of wholeness, not because life was easy, but because you let God do the work in you first. God's timing is perfect, but so is His process. And healing is part of that process. It's not a delay, it's a divine setup. Before He gives you the promise, He builds your character. Before He blesses you with partnership, He ensures you've discovered your identity in Him. Because when you know who you are in God, you won't settle for less than what God has called you to. Wholeness attracts wholeness. This isn't just a beautiful phrase, it's a spiritual truth. In a world where many are searching for someone to complete them, God calls us to be complete in Him first. We often hear people say, "I'll be happy when I find the right person." But the deeper truth is, you'll be ready for the right person when you become the whole person God designed you to be. Relationships are not meant to fix our brokenness. They are meant to reflect the love and healing we've already received. When two whole people come together, their love is not born out of desperation. It's born out of overflow. It's not about filling an emptiness. It's about sharing a fullness. And that fullness comes from doing the work with God first. It comes from facing the parts of ourselves that need healing, the parts that still carry wounds from the past, and allowing God to transform those places into strength. Wholeness doesn't mean perfection. It means you're no longer allowing brokenness to define your identity or dictate your choices. God desires for His children to walk in wholeness, not so we can boast in ourselves, but so we can love others from a healthy, stable place. When you are whole, you don't need someone to validate your worth. You already know who you are in Christ. When you are whole, you don't tolerate dysfunction disguised as love because your standards are rooted in truth, not in loneliness. When you are whole, you can communicate, compromise, and connect without losing yourself in the process. Many relationships fall apart because people go into them trying to find themselves in someone else. But the moment you attach your identity to another human being, you give them power they were never meant to have. And when they fail, which all humans do, you feel shattered. That's why wholeness is the foundation. It keeps you grounded. It helps you love without being consumed. It teaches you how to give without losing your own sense of purpose and peace. Wholeness also helps you discern. When you're whole, you don't chase love. You recognize it. You're not easily swayed by charm or appearances because you're tuned into character and calling. You know what aligns with your spirit. You understand what nourishes your growth. And because of that, you won't settle for relationships that feel familiar but unhealthy. You'll wait for the one that feels God-ordained. Wholeness gives you the confidence to wait. and the clarity to choose wisely. God works deeply in the waiting season. That's where He refines your heart, reveals your purpose, and renews your mind. He teaches you to be content, not because you've given up on love, but because you've discovered it in Him first. Wholeness is about being anchored. It's about being so rooted in God that when someone comes into your life, they find you thriving, not waiting to be rescued. They meet you in your strength, not in your survival. When you are whole, you attract people who are also walking in healing. There's something magnetic about someone who knows their value, not in arrogance, but in quiet confidence. They're not desperate for attention because they've learned the difference between being noticed and being valued. They're not playing games because they've healed from the fear of vulnerability. And they're not trying to impress anyone. They are living in alignment with who they are called to be. This kind of wholeness doesn't happen overnight. It takes intentional time with God. It takes self-reflection. It takes being honest about the patterns that keep repeating in your life and asking, where is this coming from? It takes courage to confront the parts of your story you'd rather forget and let God write something redemptive from them. And through that process, layer by layer, He builds a version of you that is ready for real love. Wholeness is not the absence of need, it's the presence of peace. It means that even in your desire for connection, you are not controlled by it. You can wait without panic. You can love without losing yourself. You can give without expecting someone else to carry what only God can. And in that posture of strength and humility, you become someone who is capable of sustaining the kind of love that lasts. This is why God focuses so much on your personal growth before your relational breakthrough. Because a healthy relationship doesn't create your peace, it reflects it. A strong relationship doesn't make you whole, it confirms that you already are. And when two people, both walking in healing and purpose, come together, what they build is far greater than what either could have built alone. Their love becomes a partnership rooted in truth, service, and spiritual alignment. Your pain has a purpose. It prepares you for partnership. That may not be what we want to hear in our moments of heartbreak, confusion, or loss. But it is a truth that God continues to reveal to those who are willing to see with spiritual eyes. Pain is not just something to endure. It is something that when so many of us have walked through relationships that left us broken, wondering why God allowed certain people into our lives if they weren't meant to stay. We question, we grieve, we sometimes even grow bitter. But what if that heartbreak was never meant to destroy you? It was meant to develop you. What if the pain wasn't punishment, but preparation? God doesn't waste anything. Every tear, every disappointment, every closed door is used in His hands to mold you into the person who can both recognize and receive the kind of love He intends for you. Pain has a way of revealing what's still unhealed. It brings to the surface the wounds we thought we buried, the fears we didn't know we had, and the habits that silently sabotage us. In relationships, pain exposes our dependency, our insecurity, and the places where we've tied our value to someone else's acceptance. And when those relationships fall apart, we're left with a mirror, one that reflects not just what happened, but who we've become in response to it. That's where the work begins. God allows pain not because He enjoys our suffering, but because He knows that certain lessons are only learned in the fire. Some of the most transformative moments in life are birthed out of brokenness. Pain strips away illusions. It wakes us up. It helps us see what we were tolerating, what we were believing about ourselves, and what we were settling for. Through pain, God invites us into a deeper level of healing, one where we no longer chase love out of lack, but wait for love out of wholeness. Pain also births empathy. When you've suffered, you see people differently. You love more tenderly. You speak more gently. You understand things that can't be taught in a classroom or read in a book. That emotional and spiritual depth becomes a strength in your future relationship. It helps you connect beyond surface level attraction. It allows you to hold space for your partner's humanity, their process, and their growth. Pain teaches patience, and patience is a cornerstone of real love. There's a difference between reacting from pain and responding through healing. Unhealed pain causes us to project, to mistrust, to push away the very thing we say we want. But when we allow God to meet us in our pain, when we lean into His presence rather than run from it, we begin to heal in ways that make us ready for healthy connection. We stop expecting others to carry what we haven't dealt with. We start communicating from clarity rather than confusion. And we love from abundance, not from desperation. Every failed relationship, every betrayal, every season of loneliness is shaping something in you. It may be building your faith, deepening your dependence on God, or strengthening your emotional resilience. It may be teaching you to set boundaries, to raise your standards, to speak up, or to slow down. Pain gives you wisdom if you're willing to sit with it and learn. It helps you define what you want, what you need, and what you're no longer willing to accept. That kind of clarity doesn't come from comfort. It comes from the refining process of pain. The truth is, some of the most beautiful relationships are born after a season of personal brokenness. Because when you've walked through pain and allowed it to shape you instead of harden you, you come out with a different kind of strength. You're not looking to be saved, you're looking to build. You're not rushing to fill a void, you're moving with intention. You begin to value quality over attention, connection over convenience, and peace over passion. And when you meet someone who has also allowed their pain to shape them for the better, there's an instant alignment. Two people, both forged in the fire of past experiences, come together not as half souls trying to complete each other, but as whole individuals ready to co-create something meaningful. Their love is rooted not in fantasy, but in reality. Not in perfection, but in process. And it's their past pain, now transformed, that gives them the tools to walk together with grace, patience, and purpose. Healing aligns you with God's timing, not just your desire. We often live in the tension between what we want and when we want it. Our hearts long for connection, for companionship, for the love story that feels like it's overdue. But God's ways are not our ways, and His timing is not set according to our emotional clocks. He sees the bigger picture, the whole story of your life. And in that story, healing is not a delay, it's divine preparation. Desire is powerful. It can drive you to hope, to pray, to pursue. But if desire is not balanced with wisdom, it can lead to desperation. And desperation often makes decisions that patience never would. That's why healing is so important. Healing calms the anxious heart. It silences the rush. It teaches you to trust that what God has promised, He is also preparing, not just preparing for you, but preparing you for it. When we are unhealed, our desire tends to be louder than our discernment. We mistake loneliness for love, attention for affection, chemistry for compatibility. But healing brings clarity. It teaches you how to wait without wavering. It strengthens your ability to see past surface level attraction and recognize spiritual alignment. It gives you peace in the pause because you're no longer measuring your worth by your relationship status. God is never in a hurry, but He is always on time. And in His mercy, He will often withhold what we want until we are ready to carry it with grace and gratitude. A relationship that begins too soon, before the healing is complete, can end up damaging both people involved. Because when wounds lead the way, they cloud judgment and stir insecurity. But when healing has done its work, you enter relationships with open eyes, a grounded heart, and a spirit led by peace rather than pressure. There's a sacred alignment that happens when you submit your timing to God. You stop striving and start surrendering. You stop comparing your journey to others and begin to trust that your path is unique and intentional. Healing helps you let go of false timelines, the kind that culture or family or fear has tried to put on you. You start to believe that being on time doesn't mean rushing. It means being ready. It means trusting God not just for the blessing, but for the moment when that blessing will be most fruitful. This alignment is not passive. It doesn't mean you sit and do nothing. It means you participate in your own becoming. You pursue growth. You seek wisdom. You heal the parts of you that used to sabotage connection. You ask the hard questions, spend time with God, and become aware of your patterns. That inner work aligns you with God's heart and positions you to recognize the right person when they come. Desire without healing will convince you to settle. It will make you chase what's available rather than wait for what's anointed. But when healing has taken root in your heart, you can look at what's almost right and still say no. You no longer operate from lack, because healing reminds you that you are already whole in God. That's what alignment feels like. It's peace that doesn't make sense, stillness in the waiting, and the courage to believe that what God has for you is not just good, but good for you. Sometimes God slows the timeline because He's protecting you from things you can't see yet. Maybe the person you're praying for is still in their own healing process. Maybe God is aligning circumstances, refining character, or removing distractions. What feels like silence is often strategy. And the beauty of God's timing is that when it's right, things flow. Doors open. Peace follows. Confirmation comes, not just from emotions, but from the Spirit. Healing tunes your heart to God's voice. It helps you distinguish between the noise of your desire and the whisper of His will. It shows you that timing is not about how long you've waited, but about how deeply you've been prepared. And in that preparation, something powerful happens. Your heart softens. Your vision sharpens. You begin to desire not just a relationship, but a relationship that honors God, reflects His love, and advances His purpose in your life. There's a maturity that healing brings. You stop praying for quick answers and start praying for divine alignment. You no longer ask for someone just to love you. You ask for someone to partner with you in purpose. You don't just want excitement, you want peace. You don't just want butterflies, you want stability. And that kind of desire, refined by healing, is exactly what God responds to, because it shows you're not just ready for love, you're aligned with the timing that sustains it. So if you've been wondering why the journey to love has felt long, or why the path has taken unexpected turns, know this: God isn't withholding your blessing. He's preparing you for it. Healing is not just a process. It's a pathway, a sacred, intentional, transformative journey where God restores what was broken, refines who you are, and aligns you with what He has already written into your future. You're not behind. You're not forgotten. You are being made whole because God cares more about your becoming than your rushing. He's not just giving you a partner. He's preparing you for purpose. So embrace the healing. Lean into the process. Trust His timing, because when you walk in wholeness, when you love from a healed place, when your soul is anchored in truth, what you attract won't just be another relationship. It will be a God-ordained union, a partnership born in heaven, and a reflection of the very love that healed you in the first place. Your healing is the proof that you're ready. And your readiness is the sign that your soulmate isn't just coming, they're being drawn to the whole healed and holy version of you.